Om Sahana Vavati Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So there is this virus of attachment. The various areas where the attachment happens is wealth, women, children, religion, etc. And the solution to that is the antivirus is got to strengthen your intellect. And when they are talking about intellect, the distinction between the distinction between intelligence and intellect. Up to this we have studied. Up to this we concluded yesterday, last week. The distinction between intelligence and intellect. You can be very intelligent in explaining about intellect and still not have an intellect. That possibility is there. Again, I repeat. You can talk about intellect so much and still it is possible that you may not have an intellect. This is the paradox. Paradox is you can talk about it and still it is possible that you may not even you may not even have it. How is it possible that you can talk about it and still not have it? The reality is this is how it functions. Why? Because a process of gathering intelligence vis-a-vis the method of strengthening the intellect are two different methods. The process of gaining intelligence versus the method of strengthening the intellect. These two are different. These two are entirely different processes there. How do you understand that? How do you understand that the processes are distinct and different? Little bit. So, just trying to adjust the light. It's not getting very clear. No, it has to come up. I kept it at height. Yes. So the process of developing the intelligence vis-a-vis the process of developing the intellect, both aren't the same. How do you develop intelligence? You gather information, you understand that information, and you reproduce that information. That is intelligence. And all this is about the external world. So in every in all methodology of acquiring intelligence, the focus is always on knowing something external. In the process of developing intellect, it is knowing something internal. In intelligence, it is external. In intellect, it is internal. This is the fundamental difference. You can know about physics, you can know about chemistry, you can know about everything. That is intelligence, because you are inquiring about the world. Intellect is when you inquire about, what is intellect? Intellect is when you inquire about your own self. And when we say inquiring about your own self implies inquiring about your own self implies what? At one level, it is asking about what is it that you are seeking and what is the way to get it. At another level, who are you? Who am I? Inquiry into your own nature is intellect. Inquiry about the world outside is intelligence. Both are two different areas of function. Distinct and different from intelligence is the ability to control the senses and the mind. So second function of the intellect is, first function of the intellect besides inquiry. Second function of the intellect is to control the second function of the intellect is to control the mind and the senses. When you are gathering intelligence, in intelligence, you are not concerned about controlling you are not interested in controlling your mind, you are not interested in controlling your senses. In fact, intelligence is how to make life comfortable, how to pamper them more. Intelligence is all about pampering the mind and the senses. Intellect is all about managing it, controlling it. Because intelligence always says make life. Intelligence says make life comfortable. And what is the only way to make life comfortable? Okay. All along, what does human being do to make life comfortable? Okay, what is the discomfort of life? Whatever is the discomfort of life, you avoid that, life becomes comfortable. What is the discomfort of life? You avoid that, life becomes comfortable. The discomfort of life is action, and you avoid action, life becomes comfortable. That's all. So what is the discomfort of life? Action is the discomfort. Therefore, what is the solution now? What is the solution? Action is a discomfort. What is the solution? Avoid action. And how to avoid action? What is the way to avoid action? What is the way to avoid action? Invent machines. Invent machines. And those machines will do. You don't have to wash, the machine will wash. You don't have to sweep and mop, the machine will sweep and mop. You don't have to cook, I don't know, machine will cook. So I don't know what all you want to avoid. What you cannot avoid eating. You cannot avoid washing. You cannot avoid cooking. So what do? You replace it with a machine. So more and more in technology, more and more in science and technology came about from what? From the fundamental attitude of how to avoid action. We will call it as making life better. We will call it as making life comfortable. We will call it as making life better. But at the end of the day, what happens is betterment of life is what Vedanta comes and defines what is betterment of life. What is betterment of life? Betterment of life is where there is a peace of mind. Where there is peace, there is betterment. Where there is harmony, where there is harmony and peace, that is betterment. Where there is disharmony and agitations, then it's not a better life. Therefore, intelligence tries to make life better by telling you how to avoid actions and make actions by substituting it with machines, because human being always feels actions are always, I don't know, something, they always feel action is something very inferior. Action is always very inferior, and I don't know what. Thinking is better. Huh? I don't know what they think, isn't it? They always feel action is inferior. That is why there is always a resistance to action, because action is seen as inferior. And who will do it? A human being must be doing mental work, not physical work. And what is mental work? I don't know. If at all there is something called mental work, what is that mental work? We don't know. Therefore, intellect says, Vedanta comes and says, as you are focusing on something that is unending, which will always keep you in that chase, there is something that is ending where the chase is stopped. That's why it's called Veda Anta. In the world, there is no Anta. It goes till Pralaya comes, there is no Anta. You understand that? In the world, there is no Anta until Pralaya comes, until something gets totally destroyed. There is no stopping there. It is just destruction and starting. It is destruction and starting all over again. It is destruction and starting all over again. There is no end. Here we say Anta, the end. That's why we call it as Anta, Veda, Anta we say. Anta means the end. What ends? The action doesn't end. Intellect says the action doesn't end, because first lesson, intellect teaches. Wanting to avoid action is wanting to commit suicide. Avoiding action is committing suicide. And everybody wants to commit. Everybody wants to do the suicide only, or to talk to anybody. Some toothache will come, some headache will come, some stomach ache will come, some pain will come, something or the other will keep coming all the time. Suicide. Avoiding action is committing suicide. How do you say that? Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya akarmakrit. Verse number 7, chapter 3. Inaction is impossible. Inaction is impossible. Suicide is possible. Suicide is possible. And everybody is committing this suicide. So, what is the first thing the intellect says? Avoiding action is not a possibility. Since avoiding is not a possibility, then what do? Keep yourself in action. And what is keeping yourself in action means? What will I get, sir, if I do this? The moment you talk about action, first question is, what will I I am doing, no. As the doer, what will I get? So something has to be constantly given, because the doer wants to go into the coma all the time. So in order to keep the doer alive, what has to be done? Every month salary has to be given, isn't it? Otherwise the doer will not wake up. So in order to keep the doer alive, in order to wake up the doer, what has to be done? Something has to be given constantly. Correct? And the very fact that something is given constantly itself, the mind keeps asking. You keep giving something constantly, the mind keeps asking more. Thus the circle continues. A time comes where what the mind is asking, the world cannot give. What the mind is asking, world cannot give. Then what happens? That becomes another excuse to avoid action. It becomes another excuse to avoid action. This is as far as action is concerned, intellect. Not to talk about emotions. What is emotions? The root of emotion. We have seen that in Vedanta treatise, we have studied. What is the root of emotion? Desire is the root of emotion. It means all emotions are backed by, if you say desire is the root of emotion, all emotions. Desire is not the root of negative emotions. Unguided desires modifies as negative emotions. Guided desire modifies as positive emotions. Again, I repeat, desire is the root of all emotions. We have seen, till now we spoke about intellect in relation to action. Now, how long to keep talking about action? So I shifted to, how long to keep talking about action? So I shifted to better thing, emotion. Yeah. What is emotion? Root of emotion. All emotion, the root is the desire. Bad emotions, sir. Negative emotions? Yes. Positive emotions? Yes. Desire is the root of emotion. So guided desire becomes positive emotions. Unguided turns negative. Negative in the sense produces agitations, that's all. Negative. So because of the intellect not being there, what happens? This desires goes on developing into those modifications. And there is another problem with unguided desires. What is that? There are two problems with unguided desires. Formula mari potu vechukonga. Unguided desire, two problems potu vechukonga. Modification, multiplication. Unguided desire goes on modifications and it goes on multiplying. What is the modification? Unguided desire modifications. We have seen that already. Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya, etc. Unguided. Not only it modifies, it continuously multiplies. Intelligence cannot handle modifications and multiplication. Are you able to follow now? Intelligence cannot handle modifications and intelligence cannot handle multiplication. Multiplication of what? Multiplication of desires. That is why people say, how can intelligence handle modifications and multiplication? It is intellect that can handle modification and multiplication. You become a highly intelligent person, where in intelligence you are taught this is the modification, you have to handle it. Where in intelligence you are taught taught this is a multiplication and you have to handle multiplication. Where is it taught? For you to believe that intelligence will be able to handle modification and multiplication. Therefore, in relation to emotion, intellect comes and says, handle these two. What are the two? Modification and multiplication. Engineering college, what will they teach? Or what should they teach in engineering college that you want your children to go there? If they start teaching, desire should not be modification, desire should not be multiplied, abdinna, what will happen? Ram Subramaniam. First day, you will pull your child out of that school. No. Because that is not what is meant to be taught. That is not what to be meant taught there. Yeah. You go to a medical school, what are they supposed to teach? Modification and multiplication. 1 year syllabus. What? Modification and multiplication. And what will you do? But sir, Bhaskar. But sir, we'll be losing behind, in 1 year. Losing behind in what? Others will modify, others will multiply. We will lose in modification, multiplication. It is better to have that loss. No. Are you able to follow? So, where in intelligence that you expect that it is to be taught? Which part of intelligence will come and teach you this? And yet the expectation is what? And yet what is the expectation? That you carry and everybody else around you also carries. What is the expectation? The expectation is you should be a very intelligent person and all your emotions in terms of modification, in terms of multiplication will be under control. It is like going to an engineering college and hoping to become a doctor. How is it possible? That is in relation to emotion, intelligence and intellect. Again, intelligence and intellect in relation to knowledge. Again, intelligence and intellect in relation to knowledge. What is intelligence and intellect in relation to knowledge? One kind of knowledge is knowing. Another kind of knowledge is how to make use of it. There are two fundamental approaches to knowledge. One is knowing. Another is how to make use of it. And when you say how to make use of it, obviously what it means. When you say how to make use of it, obviously it means how to make use of it. Obviously it means for you. So knowledge is not selfish and self-centered. Trying to make use of it makes it selfish and self-centered. And all knowledge that is driven by utility, as in making use of it, ultimately boils down to what? That's why we say, sir, simply knowing something is of no use unless you can do something with it. This is where intellect comes and says the difference between liberal education and servile education. Intelligence is always servile in nature. Servile means there has to be that utility. Isn't it? Distinct and different from that is intellect comes up with the knowledge. What is the knowledge? The knowledge of as it teaches you to gain a skill to earn a living. Again, I repeat, as you gain a skill to earn a living, intellect says, don't stop with mere living. Don't stop with mere living. You can go into higher dimensions. Higher dimensions means higher bank balance, isn't it? Our only understanding of higher dimension is what? Higher bank balance. That's all. From 5 digits to 6 digits, from 6 digits to 7 digit, 7 digit to 8 digit. Oh my God. 7 digits are too complicated. 8 digits is almost like at any point of time, you want to gain a knowledge for the purpose of, you want to gain the knowledge for the purpose of what? You want to gain a knowledge for the purpose of a utility. Utility means it is limited to one or a group. There cannot be a universal utility. Utility itself means it is limited to one or a group, isn't it? Utility itself means that, isn't it? Whichever is the better team, let them win the match. அப்படின்னு உட்கார்ந்து ஃபுட்பால் மேட்ச் பார்த்தா எப்படி இருக்கும்? How that match will look like? Whichever is the better team, let them win அப்படின்னா, did you saw like that Ram Subramaniam? Oh, football, sir, அப்படின்னா what to do, isn't it? I don't know what is football, then it's okay. You wanted Brazil to win, you wanted Argentina to win, and you want both the team to have 2 World Cups, both should hold the, how can both win? So one fellow has to lose and one fellow has to gain. So first match, Brazil lost. Now thinking to continue watching at midnight or not, isn't it? Now the doubt comes, to continue watching at midnight or not. And then midnight, Argentina won. Abada, today class is okay. Illana class would be cancelled today. Yeah. Because half the heart is broken because Brazil is lost. Half the heart is excited because Argentina won. Okay, somehow we can manage. Utility means it is always related to a small group. There will be exclusion. There cannot be something called universal. There cannot be something called universal utility. Are you able to follow? Therefore, intellect asks this question. In and through all this, the knowledge. In and through all this, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? Where is it leading? Where is it leading one to? What is the meaning? What is the purpose? Where is it one leading to? This is the difference between intelligence and intellect. How to develop this intellect? That is the next question. How to, having distinguished between intelligence and intellect, the question is how to develop your intellect. Venkat padikala.
Develop your intellect. Human beings have failed to develop the intellect, much less use it in their lives. They merely use the mind impulsively and follow a herd instinct all through life. None seems to query the predecessor's lifestyle. But when the younger generation do question, challenge any procedure adopted by the seniors, they are subdued with authority. As a result, both the young and the old are deprived of the life-guiding, life-saving equipment, the intellect. With the loss of intellect, human beings face distress, depression, and impending destruction. A verse in the scripture cautions humanity. You lose your intellect, you perish. Hence, the primary obligation to set right one's life is to build a strong intellect. The intellect is provided to human beings alone and not to any other creature. Unlike the physical body, which is provided for both human and animal, the muscles of the body are gradually developed by both human and animal. The type of muscles that an adult has is not what the infant had. They are fully developed in the adult either consciously or unconsciously. When the muscles are neglected, people become invalid, immobile. Unfortunately, humans do not see this happening to the intellect. They commit the grave blunder in totally neglecting it. As a result, the human intellect remains unattended, undeveloped from the very beginning. And people have become helpless captives of their mind and its devastating attachments. The development of the intellect should commence at an early age, say around 7 years. The procedure involves two fundamental disciplines. 1. Do not let your mind accept anything for granted in your life. 2. Let the intellect question all the way through your life and accept only those that admit reason and logic. When the young follow these two procedures meticulously, they would start building their intellect. But none knew this discipline, much less observed it. However, children who were denied the early training could start from the age of 15 the study of Vedanta, the philosophic content of religion. The study has to be daily in the early hours of the morning. 3 books, especially designed by the author for initiates, are recommended to be covered in the following order. 1. The fall of the human intellect. 2. The Holocaust of attachment. 3. Governing business and relationships. These books should help one strengthen the intellect and live a life of peace and comfort. Furthermore, to understand the human role in this challenging world and complete life's mission, one needs to carefully study the author's cardinal book, Vedanta Treatise, The Eternities. Therefore, the antidote for the menacing virus of attachment lies in strengthening the intellect. A powerful intellect will not allow the mind to develop any form of attachment. Thus, freed from all fetters, shackles in the world, a human can claim true liberation in life.
Develop your intellect. How to develop? There is the method and then there is a material. So 2 ways. One is the method and another is the material. The material is the Shastras. The material comes from the Shastras, the method. Intellect, he said, is developed by 2 methods. The method is number 1. What is the first method? Do not take things for granted. Taking things for granted means what? Taking things for granted means what? Taking things for granted means you start believing what you see is what it is. Again, I repeat. Taking things for granted means what you see is what it is. Questioning means not taking things for granted means you question. Are you able to understand the difference? That's all. What you see is not what it is the law of life. If what you see is what it is, there is no. If what you see is what it is, there is no paradox. Knowledge is not required. Shastra is not required. No intellect is necessary. Again, I repeat. If what you see is what it is, Shastra is not required. Teaching is not required. Intellect is not required. The paradox is what you see is not what it is. The mind has the tendency to take things for granted. Taking things for granted implies what? You see something and you conclude this is what it is. First education given to the children is what? Anybody offers anything, you should not take. More chocolate borum, isn't it? Chocolate is enough to make the child fall. Adult don't think that adults are much better than that. They are worse than that. As you grow, my God, what all they can fall for. Just one word here, one word there. So I don't know how anybody can fall so. How anybody can fall like that in the first place. Why the fall happens? Because you start going by what you see is what it is. So anybody offers chocolate, the child will think. Anybody offers chocolate, the child will think what? Friend. Anybody scolding, the child will think. Are you able to understand the second question? Vijay, Purita. Anybody scolding, the child will think enemy, isn't it? That's why Shastra is an enemy always. Shastra is always an enemy. Guru is always an enemy. And the world is always your friend. Why? Because why the Shastra is always your enemy? It's a 2-year-old stuff. Degree PhD, isn't it? Yeah. They make 8 digits, 9 digits, 10 digits, they make, and they sit and think that they know everything, but not more than 2 years old. Why? Because they go by, they see something and they just get carried away by what they see. So not taking things for granted is a discipline. Not taking things for granted is a discipline. What is the discipline that is very important? The discipline is what you see is not what it is. அது ஒரு இடத்துல தான் கரெக்டா பிராக்டிஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. எங்க practice all this in the world, nobody will practice that. Vedanta class they will practice it so well. Anga kuda ulta tamasic intellect only function, isn't it? At least here, ask questions, they say. At least here, don't take things for granted and ask questions. Actually, where you are supposed to do this? Develop the training here, and where are you supposed to do it? You are supposed to do it in the world. Why? Because of this problem. What is the problem? The problem of what you see is what it is. The reality is what you see is not what it is. At least this much we understand. No. What we see is not what it is. Second discipline, he says, is question. Question. What does questioning? Questioning brings about what? Intelligence, information, knowledge. Yeah? Questioning brings about what? Questioning is that which brings a awareness of you have not known, you have not understood. When you see things as it is, you think, you know, and no more knowledge is required for you. A parent will come and ask, how to educate the children, sir? Why? Because they assume that they don't need it. I will follow how to educate children on Vedanta. That's where this knowledge is very important. We understood the importance of all that, so meaningful it is. Now, they should get it. The Shastra says, forget them, first you get it. Forget them, they will get it by themselves. You get it for yourself first. You talk to the parent will say, children needs this. Thank God no parents can have a conversation with the children. That's why they are surviving. You talk to the children says what? The children says, who needs it? Bhaskar.
Parents need it.
Correct. அவர் மட்டும் எப்படி அன்மியூட் பண்ணிக்கிறாரு? அவர் மட்டும் எப்படி அன்மியூட் பண்ணாரு இப்போ சடனா? I didn't know. Everybody can unmute. ஓ அட்மினா? மாத்துங்க அட்மின் ஃபர்ஸ்ட். Change the admin. இது cheating, no? விஜயரங்கன் சீட்டிங் தானே இது. படார்னு சொன்னா, so Bhaskar will say how to teach Hari Vedanta. Hari is his son. Yeah. And I speak to Hari also because Hari is also close to me as Bhaskar is. So when I speak to Hari, I don't come and tell Bhaskar what Hari tells me, isn't it? Why? Because Hari tells me, uncle, first father needs it. And mother needs it. Parents say children needs it, and children says parents need it. It means what? I don't need, that's all. Others need except me, isn't it? You go to the university, the teachers say students need. The students say teachers need. They are more agitated than us, sir. Yes. If we fight in the classroom, they are fighting in the faculty room, isn't it? That's all the differences. If we are fighting in the classroom, where do the teachers fight? They fight what is called the staff room, faculty room. Same fight only, isn't it? No difference. What the children fight for is what they are also fighting for. Okay, what did you go to an organization? Useful. This knowledge is so useful, sir. This knowledge is so useful. Oh, peace of mind means productivity. Productivity means more profit. Come and teach all my staff now. Ganesh, yeah. Come and teach all my staff now. Why? Because with this knowledge there will be peace of mind. Peace of mind means more productivity. More productivity means more profit. So I talked to them. The fellow says, sir, in agitation, that only fellow sitting there on top is the only fellow that is causing all the problems. So you educate that person, all the problems are down the line. Everybody believes that they don't need it while others need it. Questioning keeps it alive. What questioning keeps it alive? That you need to know. The discipline of questioning ensures that you need to gain this. You need to gain this knowledge. Second thing, what questioning does is, questioning is the method to create a distance, objectivity. Questioning alone creates a distance. Without questioning, you think you know it, that's it, there's no distance at all. Objectivity you have to develop. How do you develop objectivity? You have to question. And when you question, how you should question? A impartial way of questioning. An impartial way of questioning. What is impartial way means? You have to be aware of the seen desires, the unseen desires, the manifest motives and the hidden motives. Questioning makes you aware of all this. Are you able to follow now? How questioning brings about objectivity? When you question, this questioning makes you aware of the seen, the unseen, the manifest and the hidden. You may be saying something, but deep inside you may be wanting, you may be exactly the opposite of what you are talking outside. Questioning brings about an impersonal and impartial vision. Are you able to follow? By this process, intellect develops means now, based on the process, we will define what intellect is. What is intellect? Intellect is a intellect is impartial by nature. Intellect is impartial by nature. A impartial faculty is called intellect. Okay, opposite of impartial is what? Okay, to put it very simply, what is intellect? Intellect as an instrument is an impartial discriminative function. You should not use the word discrimination now, so you have to use the word impartial discerning function. What is intellect? Intellect is an impartial discerning function. Why do we say intellect is impartial? Knowledge in itself is impartial. Fact is in itself is impartial. Therefore, that which is of the function of facts and knowledge, intellect also by nature becomes impartial. Are you able to follow? Mind by nature is partial. Why? Because mind means its interests. Mind means its priorities. Mind means its comforts. Since mind means this, it can never be impartial. And you tell the person, why don't you be objective? Why don't you see it from why don't you see it from my angle? Why don't you put yourself in my shoes? Mind knows only one shoe. What? My shoe it knows. It knows only its shoes. How can it put itself in another person's shoes? Just as you want the other to put your shoes, you should be ready to put. You should be ready to fit into their shoe. No. Mind says, no. as I am right and perfect already, everybody must fit into my shoes. Are you able to follow what is intellect now? So how do you define intellect? An impartial, discriminate, impartial, discerning function is intellect. The strength of the intellect is dependent upon the strength of how impartial you can be. So what is the strength of the intellect now? How impartial you can be. That's why we call it as more and more selfless. When the intellect develops, you become more and more selfless, we say. How do we say that intellect makes you more and more selfless? Because it is an impartial function. Opposite of impartial function is partial. Partial means selfish and self-centered. What is the benefit for oneself? Therefore, intellect is an impartial discerning function. Intellect by nature is objective. Why? Because knowledge by itself is impartial. Knowledge by itself is a fact. Are you okay till now? What is the knowledge that we are talking about that strengthens the intellect? What is the knowledge that we are talking about that makes this process of impartial discerning function to be alive, strong? What is that? Intellect has two purposes: to seek and gain knowledge, monitor the mind and the senses. Intellect has two purposes. One is to seek and gain knowledge. Another is to monitor the mind and the senses. Now, wherever the human being seeks knowledge, what is that knowledge must be, that seeking knowledge must be guided by what? That seeking knowledge to make life better must be guided by not the idea of making life better. It should be guided by the Shastras. We say intellect should guide the mind and the senses. What should guide the intellect? It is the Shastra that should guide the intellect. Are you able to follow? If Shastra is not there, then what will guide the intellect by default? If you don't have any Shastric knowledge, what will guide the intellect then? Likes and dislikes. So, it is the Shastric knowledge that replaces, when the Shastric knowledge guides the discriminating, discerning faculty, it turns into an intellect. When the likes and dislikes starts guiding the hijacking the intellect, it is simply intelligence that is used to fulfill its own demands, its own requirements. That is where we say intellect is hijacked. Are you able to follow? Intellect is hijacked. And intellect is hijacked. What do we do? Buddhinashat pranashyati. He's quoting that, chapter 2. Buddhinashat pranashyati. 62, 63. Ladder of fall. Intellect is gone. Everything is gone. So, what is intellect now? To seek and gain knowledge and to monitor the senses and the mind. So, both are told to you what? It is a Shastra that comes and tells you. Therefore, intellect gets strengthened not by any worldly subject. Intellect gets strengthened only by Shastric knowledge. Yeah, proof isn't it? Constantly reinforcement has to be, constantly proofs has to be given, isn't it? Mind starts wavering. Without Shastric knowledge, seeking and gaining knowledge is towards making life better. And making life better always for whom? Making life better for whom? Ultimately, it will boil down to me, isn't it? Life should become better, no, sir. Betterment for whom? For human beings. So if you have to make life better for human beings, you have to. So in order to make life better for human beings, you got to make life miserable for others, isn't it? Unless you torture them, unless you make their life miserable, your life can never become better. But sir, win-win situation, no? Win-win situation, isn't it? What is the win-win situation? What is the study? What is the medical science for animals? What is the medical science called for treating animals? There is a medical science for treating animals, no? MBBS, MD are the veterinary sciences, they say, isn't it? Wow, sir. So much of love and compassion for other species that we have developed the veterinary sciences. Veterinary sciences came only because of what? Only because of what? Veterinary sciences came only because of what? We were in need of them. We wanted to make use of them. Since we are in need of them, we wanted to make use of them. We have to study and take care. That's all. Is it any affection? Is it any affection? No affection. Correct? Oh, so much of love and care for animals. I took the pet to the vet, isn't it? Vettum thevilla, pettum thevilla, isn't it? Both are not needed. Why? So what is making life better? Making life better is always for one species. First, we will say one species, human beings. So rest of the other species simply becomes a lifeless entity in front of humans. Correct? In the humans also, gradations, isn't it? India versus Pakistan. Obviously, Ram Subramanian. Doubt. Obviously, India. Where is the doubt? In India, North India, South India. Huh? Obviously, South India. Where is the problem? Obviously, it is South India. In South India, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Where is the problem? Obviously, Tamil Nadu, sir. Karnataka, oh my God. So, obviously, no Karnataka. It's only Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, capital, no, sir, Chennai, isn't it? In Chennai, people don't know there is a thing called North Madras and Central Madras. No. Chennai means South Madras. In South Madras, holiest place, sir, Mylapore, isn't it? Holiest, I don't know. And it is holy, yeah? Personally, also, I think holiest place in this planet is Mylapore. Sir, isn't it? In Mylapore, obviously my street. In my street, my house. In my house, the other. In my house, me. Where did we start? Started with planets and taking care of animals and taking care of ecology, environment, and you filter it. In the core, it comes to the core. Where does it come? It comes to you. And this core you hijacks the beautiful faculty of thinking to exploit and manipulate. This attachment to the you, what it does, it starts manipulating, exploiting. It turns cunning, it turns manipulative, it turns exploiting. What? The rest. For what? What? So intelligence says how to use. That's why people feel, I simply got used and thrown away, sir. People just use me and they feel you. Intelligence is always about how to use the other. Intellect comes and says, what is opposite of using? What is opposite of using? Serving. If you have to serve the other, you have to distance yourself from what? From the core, the you. From the core, the you. Therefore, as you seek and gain knowledge without the Shastric guidance, it will be simply reinforcing the you. The Shastric guidance comes and says, you seek and gain knowledge, and how does it work? By controlling the senses, by controlling the mind, by including the welfare of others. Including the welfare of others. Include the welfare of others. In order to do that, you need knowledge. What is knowledge? All Shastric knowledge boils down to 4 pairs. Remember that. In the 4 pairs, that 4 pairs is what we have to keep repeating again and again and again in various ways, various books, various languages, various stories, various explanations, various poems. I don't know what all methodology we are adopting is only to talk about these 4 pairs. What are the 4 pairs? There are only 4 pairs. The first pair, essentials and non-essentials. Knowledge means only these 4. Having a clear, impartial discrimination, clear discernment on these. First one is essential and non-essential. Number 2, means end. Means a plural la podungo, end a singular la podungo. Then only it will be clear. Don't say means and ends. Means and end. Second pair. Means and end. The third pair. Karyam and akaryam. What should be done? What should not be done? The third pair. Karyam and akaryam. The fourth pair. Nityam, anityam. That's all knowledge boils down to. Again, I repeat. Essential and non-essential. Means and end. Karyam, akaryam. Nityam, anityam. In the நாலுத்திலும் clarity வந்துருச்சுனா, you have intellect. If you have a clarity on all these 4, it means you have an intellect. Are you able to follow? If you have clarity on all these 4, it means you are having you have an intellect. In every facet of life, there is this essential and non-essential, isn't it? Always there is this dilemma of what to do, what not to do. Karyam and always there is this dilemma. Should I do this? Doing halfway through, a doubt comes. Maybe am I doing the right thing? Maybe I should be doing something. Maybe I should be doing something else. Okay. At that point of time, whatever you chose to do looks like the right thing to do. You start that. 6 months later, Maybe this is not what I should not be doing. I should be doing something else. So first clarity is essential and non-essential. Second clarity is means and end. Plural and singular. Means in plural, end in singular. Because ultimately what you want? That one end. Ultimately what you want? That one end, isn't it? So all the various means is for that one end. Clarity on that is the end. Yeah, destination correct. Opposite direction. What will happen? Destination is correct, but I'm walking in the opposite direction. Clarity. Second is means and the end. Sir, for everybody, end will differ, no, sir? No. End is universal. Means differ. Are you okay with this? Sir, end differ. Sir, no, ends don't differ for anybody. End is universal. Means differ. Okay. Will anybody have an end of I want to be agitated? Everybody's end. Will anybody say my end is not peace and happiness and all? I want to be disturbed and agitated. Will anybody say that end? Will anybody have that as an end? Means differ. So the second clarity is what? The means and the end. In the end is the means and end is the means that I'm adopting, taking me to that end. Third is karyam and akaryam. Idhulalla clarity vandirthunaka, there's an inner maturity. That inner maturity will take you to that height of asking this question. What is the question? Nityam and Anityam. Nityam and Anityam means a distinction between temporary and permanent, not impermanent and permanent. Understand that. There is no such thing called impermanent. There is one thing called temporary. There is one thing called permanent. So Anityam means English vocabulary permanent, impermanent, temporary and permanent. So the intellect constantly is aware of the fourth pair. What is the fourth pair? Nityam and Anityam. Nityam and Anityam must be understood as what? Again, I'm repeating very clearly. Linguistically, we are so mechanical in thinking. Linguistically, we say permanent and impermanent. Permanent and impermanent. Intellect will say, wake up. You are using wrong. You have not understood. Nityam and Anityam means temporary and permanent, not impermanent and permanent. Are you able to understand the difference between temporary and permanent? Temporary means impermanent means 3 words. Beautiful. This fourth pair comes from fourth word. The fourth pair is from Allame Bhagavad Gita, but fourth pair is a reference. Verse number 16, chapter 2. Asato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo vidyate sataha ubayorapi drishtontaha tvanayoho tattvadarshibhihi. These people, Arjuna, knows this difference. What made their intellect so alert? They just knew the difference between temporary and permanent. Just knowing that temporary and permanent made them have this clarity. That's all. But the human being misunderstands that temporary as permanent, or all efforts will be made to keep the temporary as permanent. That's why human efforts are futile. All efforts are futile, isn't it? The person loving you today need not love you tomorrow. No problems at all. You'll be very happy every day. The problem is what? The person loving you today. See, what you didn't understand, it is temporary. No. The love was temporary, correct? How do you know the love is temporary? Because at one point of time, it wasn't there. At one point of time, it wasn't there. At another point of time, it has come, means at one point of time, it is not going to be there. Where is the problem? All you have such a clarity in life, and you will be so beneficial to others if you have this understanding. What is understanding? The difference between temporary and permanent. So, what is the subject matter of Shastras now? We said, through the Shastric study alone, the intellect will get strengthened. And what is the subject matter of the Shastras? These four pairs are the subject matter of Shastras. So, Vedantam enna solano? Four pairs. Knowledge enna solano? These four pairs. What are the four pairs? Essentials and non-essentials, means and end, karyam and akaryam, nityam and anityam. Lack of intellect means what? Either confusion or wrongly understanding. Lack of intellect is either confusion or wrong understanding. What is wrong understanding? Na tamasic intellect. Confusion na rajasic intellect. Are you able to understand that? It's very easy. It's not that complicated at all. Isn't it? You follow? This is the distinction. What is the distinction? Confusion or wrong understanding. Wrong understanding is what? Non-essentials will be understood as essential. Wrong understanding. Confusion is Arthala Indricha, essential and non-essential, where mother is. Afternoon, something else is happening. So at the evening, hair pulling, sir, in the evening, isn't it? Yeah, they say hair pulling, isn't it? Why? Because confusion. So wrong either wrong understanding or confusion. Confusion is called rajasic state. Wrong understanding is called tamasic state. So what is the Shastra is talking about? Only these four pairs: essentials and non-essentials. Like for example, take the example. Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, we are talking about bhakti. Patram, pushpam, palam, toyam. What is he talking about? The essential and the what is the essential aspect and what is the non-essential aspect? That's what he is discriminating. That's what he is distinguishing there. Are you able to follow? So in the context of karma yoga, how did he distinguish? Niyatam kuru karmatvam karma jahyo hya karmanaha sharira yatra pichate. Sharira yatra pichate, we started with. Clear? Even the maintenance of your body is not possible through inaction. For inaction is wherever you say, I will not do, and you are sitting quiet, what are you doing? One step towards your suicide you have taken. And anybody interested in your welfare will tell you, don't commit. Anybody interested in your welfare, what will they tell you? Don't commit. No, I will like to commit suicide. No, what to do? Isn't it? Therefore, action. In action, what to do, what not? Karyam and akaryam. Are you able to follow? Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Karma guru. First karma, do action. Modalla do action. Summa do action. And then do niyatam karma. When we say do, what is implied in do? The do not is implied in that. When we say do not is implied in that. In that do not is implied. What to do? Nitya Naimittika you should do. Nishiddha karma, prohibited action should not be done at all. Kamya karma. Watching football match. Is it a nitya karma? Is it a naimittika karma? Is it a nishiddha karma? Yeah. It's a kamya karma. Yeah, nishiddha karma. Class alla cancel pannu football match paatha, that is nishiddha karma. Nitya naimittika uttutu adu panna, it is nishiddha only. So clarity. What is the clarity? Nitya naimittika, what should be done? Regular and special. Regular and occasional, regular and special. Vis-a-vis what should not be done at all. And then we have a unique set of actions, which is very confusing, not knowing where to place it. Whether it is kamya, whether it should be easy. Because looks like it is not prohibited from one angle, from another angle it looks like. So confusion arises. Karyam and karyam. Intellect knows how to distinguish means and the end. Sadhana sadhya, it's called. Sadhana means, sadhanam means an artham. Sadhya is the end. So essentials and non-essentials, means and end, karyam, akaryam, nityam. Nityam is what the subject matter of Shastra is, and by studying this Shastric subject, the intellect is strengthened. And how you should study? How you should study? Whatever the methodology is, how you should study and how you should approach. There is a methodology of approach also. What is the methodology of approach? Which is implied here. I am elaborating it. What is the methodology of approach? Five qualities he prescribes in Bhagavad Gita. What is the five qualities? I am teaching to you, Arjuna, because you are my friend, he says. In chapter 4, he says, you are my friend. You are my Sishya. You are my friend. Tat viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So 5 qualities in chapter 4. Intelligence idella thevilla. Shastric knowledge, intellect grow on. All inquiry, everything should be done along with this attitude. What is it? Friend. You are my friend, he says in chapter 4. I am teaching to you. By long lapse of time, this knowledge is lost, Arjuna. Imam vivasvate yoham, he started by saying in chapter 4. By long lapse of time, this knowledge is lost. I am teaching you again now. Why? Because you are my Sishya and you are my friend. So 5 qualities. Sishya, friend, pranipatena, prostration, pariprashnena, questioning, seva, service. With these 5 qualities, you approach the Shastric knowledge, intellect develops. That is developing your intellect. With these 5 qualities, approach the Shastra, your intellect develops. This is the chapter. This is the topic. Develop your intellect. With this, we conclude chapter 3. Develop your intellect. With this, we conclude chapter 3. We'll start with chapter 4 next week. We'll conclude for today.
No, Rama Subramanian has posted it.
Lecture Ram Subramanian, what is your question? In talking about attachment, we had seen about wealth, opposite gender, children, religion. Wanted to ask about human beings' attachment, addiction to intoxicants like alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, weed, drugs, others. What about active smokers impacting passive smokers? Ram Subramanian, what is your problem? Huh? Active smokers impacting passive smokers. Men and women drinking alcohol together. The question answer பண்ணனா only ரெண்டு பேரும் தூக்கி ஜெயில வச்சிருவாங்க. What is wrong in women drinking alcohol? The two together and losing their control on their thinking and actions. People want to get intoxicated only to lose control. No. Intoxication is for what? Self-control or what? Intoxication is only for losing control. People arguing that marijuana is less harmful than tobacco. Marijuana is illegal and tobacco is legal. Oh my God. Ram Subramanian. எனக்கு டொபாக்கோவும் தெரியாது, என்னது மரியுவானாவோ அதுவும் தெரியாது. Active, passive smoking, sometimes I have suffered. Active, I don't know. அப்புறம் என்ன? Drinking. Smell on that, I'm fainting, isn't it? Drinking together, socialization. Ram Subramanian. All this boils down to what? All this boils down to what? All these examples that we have given, we can go on and on adding. Why did you leave gambling? Why did you leave winning lottery? Why did you leave buying lottery? Why did you stop about? Why do you talk about this thing? See, football, paagringla?
Yes, very much.
Very much, correct. Also, now I'm also very much. Both are very much in that. Penalty shootout liya jaidirudhu, isn't it? Right trial odagam, isn't it? Penalty shootout lo vacha win ana kuda konjam kashtamā dhaan irukudhu. Okay, anyway. First match, Saudi Arabia, Argentina. Fixing sir adu. Correct?
No, sir. I think Saudi Arabia's 2 goals are very, very convincingly.
Convincing, ரெண்டு பேர் ஃபிக்ஷன் எனக்கு ப்ரூவ் பண்ணாங்களே. What do we do? Are you able to follow? We can talk like this about everything. We can talk about this about everything. We can talk about it. Now the attachment is what? Attachment is to one's pleasure. What is attachment now? Ram Subramanian, I'm answering now only. What is attachment? Attachment is to one's pleasure at the cost of. You are attached. Attachment means one is attached to one's own pleasure at the cost of. Sugarcane juice machine madri adu, isn't it? You know sugarcane juice machine, no?
Yes.
How the sugarcane goes in one end and how does it come out? Like a paper, it comes out, no? This is what we are doing with others. We take them in as human beings and squeeze them and throw them out like. This is attachment. Attachment is what now? Attachment is a simple obsession to. Attachment is nothing but a obsession, self-obsession. In that self-obsession, human beings, if there are 8 billion people, they will have 8 billion ways of showing their self-obsession. Are you able to follow? So what is attachment? Attachment is nothing but self-obsession. And if there are 8 billion people, there will be 8 billion ways of showing their self-obsession. Self-obsession means what? Pleasure. One's own pleasure at the cost of. One's own pleasure at the cost of squeezing the other, squeezing the last drop. That's why, even today, whenever they sell the sugarcane juice, I stand there and watch that machine for a few minutes. 2 weeks back, Venkat department will see that machine, I said. Just how the full juice thing goes in one side and how does it come out? And that fellow is checking. If something is left behind, if some juice is left, what is done? Put again, till that thing is, till it is paper, it becomes. You can write, isn't it? It becomes a paper, dried of what? Dried of that last bit of this is what is called attachment. And there are various ways in which attachment. Now, where comes the problem is my area, look at the fallacy of human thinking. My area of attachment will look right to me, whereas all other areas of attachments will look wrong. A person who is smoking will say, except smoking, everything else will be wrong. A person who is gambling, except gambling, everything will look wrong, isn't it? For a fellow who is dharmic, everything will look adharmika. What happens to a person who has this knowledge? As we said just now, the 4 pairs transcends this. You follow? So we gave in this book, he has written only 4 examples to talk about all activities that human beings undertake for their own self-pleasure. So attachment is what? Self-pleasure, isn't it? Pleasing oneself. Using the, now you cannot please yourself without using the other. You have to use the other. You follow what I'm saying? Therefore, what is the answer to your question? All kinds of obsessions, all kinds of attachment will come in these 4 categories. Wealth, women, children, religion. All that you talk about, this intoxicants, all that comes in where? Comes under the category of, but symbolically it is said as women. Symbolically is said as women. That's why when we discussed women, we went through that in details. Understanding women doesn't mean that physical body or the sex. It is for the man it is a woman, for the woman another woman. For woman it is man. No. So what it means is using the other for one's pleasure. So in women, the entire list of what you said has discussed already. That is the answer. Are you okay, Ram Subramanian?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With this, we conclude for